brush. She seldom chooses, because of the trouble of preening herself as she does it. She is usually content to show that you merely tire her eyes. She often seems to be about to go to sleep in the middle of a remark. There is quite a long and anxious pause, and then she continues, like a clock that hesitates, bored in the middle of its strike. Arching her brows.
Oh, it is only you, Ernest. I thought there was someone here.
And she also bestows herself on cushions. A little piqued and deserting the footstool.
Had a very tiring day also, Mary?
Yawning.
Oh, dreadfully. Been trying on engagement rings all the morning.
Who is as fond of gossip as the oldest club member.
What's that?
To Agatha.
Is it Brocklehurst?
The energetic Agatha nods.
You have given your warm young heart to Brocky.
Lady Mary is impervious to his humour, but he continues bravely.
I don't wish to fatigue you, Mary, by insisting on a verbal answer, but if without straining yourself you can signify yes or no, won't you make the effort?
She indolently flashes a ring on her most important finger, and he starts back melodramatically.
The ring! Then I am too late, too late.
Fixing Lady Mary sternly, like a prosecuting counsel.
May I ask, Mary, does Brocky know? Of course, it was that terrible mother of his who pulled this through. Mother does everything for Brocky. Still, in the eyes of the law you will not be her wife but his, and therefore I hold that Brocky ought to be informed. Now.
He discovers that their languorous eyes have closed.
If you girls are shamming sleep in the expectation that I shall awaken you in the manner beloved of ladies, abandon all such hopes.
Catherine and Agatha look up without speaking. Speaking without looking up.
You impertinent boy.
Eagerly plucking another epigram from his quiver.
I knew that it was, though I don't know everything. Agatha, I'm not young enough to know everything.
He looks hopefully from one to another, but though they try to grasp this, his brilliance baffles them. His secret admirer.
Young enough?
Encouragingly.
Don't you see I'm not young enough to know everything?
I'm sure it's awfully clever, but it's so puzzling.
Here Crichton ushers in an athletic, pleasant-faced young clergyman, Mr. Traherne, who greets the company.
Ernest, say it to Mr. Traherne.
Look here, Traherne, I'm not young enough to know everything.
How do you mean, Ernest?
A little nettled.
I mean what I say.
Say it again. Say it more slowly.
I'm not young enough to know everything.
I see. What you really mean, my boy, is that you are not old enough to know everything.
No, I don't.
I assure you that's it.
Of course it is.
Yes, Ernest, that's it.
Ernest, in desperation, appeals to Crichton.
I'm not young enough, Crichton, to know everything.
It is an anxious moment, but a smile is at length extorted from Crichton as with a corkscrew.
Thank you, sir.
He goes. Relieved.
Ah, if you had that fellow's head, Traherne, you would find something better to do with it than play cricket. I hear you bowl with your head.
With proper humility.
I'm afraid cricket is all I'm good for, Ernest.
Who thinks he has a heavenly nose.
Indeed it isn't. You are sure to get on, Mr. Traherne.
Thank you, Lady Catherine.
But it was the bishop who told me so. He said a clergyman who breaks both ways is sure to get on in England.
I'm jolly glad.
The master of the house comes in, accompanied by Lord Brocklehurst. The Earl of Loam is a widower, a philanthropist, and a peer of advanced ideas. As a widower, he is at least able to interfere in the domestic concerns of his house, to rummage in the drawers, so to speak, for which he has felt an itching all his blameless life. His philanthropy has opened quite a number of other drawers to him, and his advanced ideas have blown out his figure. He takes in all the weightiest monthly reviews, and prefers those that are uncut, because he perhaps never looks better than when cutting them. But he does not read them, and save for the cutting it would suit him as well merely to take in the covers. He writes letters to the papers, which are printed in a type to scale with himself, and he is very jealous of those other correspondents who get his type. Let laws and learning, art and commerce die, but leave the big type to an intellectual aristocracy. He is really the reformed House of Lords which will come some day. Young Lord Brocklehurst is nothing save for his rank. You could pick him up by the handful any day in Piccadilly or Holborn, buying socks, or selling them. Expansively.
You are here, Ernest. Feeling fit for the voyage, Traherne?
Looking forward to it enormously.
That's right.
He chases his children about as if they were chickens.
Now then, Mary, up and doing, up and doing. Time we had the servants in. They enjoy it so much.
They hate it.
Mary, to your duties.
And he points severely to the tea-table. Twinkling.
Congratulations, Brocky.
Who detests humour.
Thanks.
Mother pleased?
With dignity.
Mother is very pleased.
That's good. Do you go on the yacht with us?
Sorry, I can't. And look here, Ernest, I will not be called Brocky.
Mother don't like it.
She does not.
He leaves Ernest, who forgives him and begins to think about his speech. Crichton enters. Speaking as one man to another.
We are quite ready, Crichton.
Crichton is distressed. Sarcastically.
How Crichton enjoys it.
Frowning.
He is the only one who doesn't, pitiful creature.
Shuddering under his lord's displeasure.
I can't help being conservative, my lord.
Be a man, Crichton. You are the same flesh and blood as myself.
In pain.
Oh, my lord.
Sharply.
Show them in. And by the way, they were not all here last time.
All, my lord, except the merest trifles.
It must be every one.
Lowering.
And remember this, Crichton. For the time being, you are my equal.
Testily.
I shall soon show you whether you are not my equal. Do as you are told.
Crichton departs to obey, and his lordship is now a general. He has no pity for his daughters, and uses a terrible threat.
And girls, remember, no condescension. The first who condescends recites.
This sends them scurrying to their labours.
By the way, Brocklehurst, can you do anything?
How do you mean?
Can you do anything? With a penny or a handkerchief? Make them disappear, for instance.
Good heavens, no.
It's a pity. Everyone in our position ought to be able to do something. Ernest, I shall probably ask you to say a few words. Something bright and sparkling.
But, my dear uncle, I have prepared nothing.
Anything impromptu will do.
Oh, well, if anything strikes me on the spur of the moment.
He unostentatiously gets the footstool into position behind the chair. Crichton reappears to announce the guests, of whom the first is the housekeeper. Reluctantly.
Mrs. Perkins.
Shaking hands.
Very delighted, Mrs. Perkins. Mary, our friend, Mrs. Perkins.
How do you do, Mrs. Perkins? Won't you sit here?
Threateningly.
Agatha.
Hastily.
How do you do? Won't you sit down?
Introducing.
Lord Brocklehurst, my valued friend, Mrs. Perkins.
Lord Brocklehurst bows and escapes. He has to fall back on Ernest.
For heaven's sake, Ernest, don't leave me for a moment. This sort of thing is utterly opposed to all my principles.
Airily.
You stick to me, Brocky, and I'll pull you through.
Monsieur Fleury.
The chef.
Shaking hands with the chef.
Very charmed to see you, Monsieur Fleury.
Thank you very much.
Fleury bows to Agatha, who is not effusive. Warningly.
Agatha, recitation.
She tosses her head, but immediately finds a seat and tea for Monsieur Fleury. Treherne and Ernest move about,